Welcome to the next episode of Hacktics and Telemetry. I am one of your co-hosts, Douglas McKee, and of course, I am joined by the one and only Crypto Cat. And this is going to be our special edition related to DEF CON. That's right, we are about 7 days away from DEF CON. We've got our DEF CON shirts on. This one's from DEF CON 18. I'm not sure which DEF CON is that from.
I lose track. This is DEF CON 34, right? So I think it was 31. This one.
31. There you go. I've got tons of different DEF CON shirts from every year that I've gone. I think this is the oldest one though. I think DEF CON 18 was the first one that I was at. So I put this one on because we are going to have a special guest in our War Room segment, specifically around DEF CON to dive in a little bit more, maybe about the history of DEF CON and some of the ins and outs.
Some tips and tricks.
Some tricks, yeah. Some tricks.
Not
about,
just for DEF CON, but Vegas, right? A lot of people haven't. They go to DEF CON, it might be their first time in Vegas, first time in the US, and if you're not used to that climate at that time of year, then you might struggle a bit.
Hey, I'll just one tip for free: sneakers, man. You got to wear good sneakers. Like that's where it's at.
Flip flops, man.
Flip flops for you can do that. You can do DEF CON in flip flops.
Yeah, I was in Thailand obviously recently. I got off the airplane, changed my flip-flops, and that was it, like 3.5 weeks until I put my trainers back on.
I couldn't do that, dude. I could not walk around Vegas and do all that walking in flip-flops. My feet would totally be killing me. But hey, anyway, back to Hacktics and Telemetry here. So if you have not joined us before, we have a pretty standard format that we follow. We have 3 components to our episode. We will start in what we refer to as the Situation Room. This is where we'll talk about the latest and greatest news happening since the last time that we released a podcast. Generally, that involves something that happened in the AI world, like, I don't know, OpenAI hacking itself. And then we will move on to the War Room, and that's our guest segment where we've got a special guest to talk to deep dive DEF CON this week. And then last but definitely not least, we will move into the Mitigation Minute. And this is because we like to provide you solutions, not just problems. We talk a lot about problems in the industry for the first couple segments, and then we're going to say, hey, what can you do in your organization in order to tackle these threats that keep coming up on a regular basis? Please, if you enjoy the episode, like and subscribe. That helps us a lot to keep this moving forward. And we would love to hear from you in the comment section. If you comment down below, we'll make sure to respond. Maybe give us an idea for an episode or a topic that you want to talk about. We would love to talk to you in the comments. Maybe you want to join the show. We'd be happy for that as well. Always looking for new guests. But, I made the comment here about OpenAI hacking itself. What anything else interesting in the AI world before we jump into things, CryptoCat?
Yeah, I think pretty much every time we have a new episode, there's a new model out. So Friday, Opus 5 dropped, and obviously there was a lot of disappointment with Fable coming out and people not really being able to do anything cyber-related. In fact, I have the max subscription. I had my Fable usage at 0%, throughout the whole time that was released. It just never did a request for me. So yeah, 5 came out. They said that there was 85% less classifier alerts, so more requests would get through. And as far as vulnerability discovery goes, they're saying it's pretty much on par with Fable or Mythos in terms of finding the vulnerabilities, but not in exploit development. But still, yeah, something super interesting to play around with. I was kind of hoping that we would have had OpenAI resetting everybody's usage to give a bit of competition, because I want to play around more with the GPT 5.6 Sol. It did actually reset. I'm a little bit confused about how the things work. It's supposed to be every week, but mine seems to reset every 3 days, but then it'll say it's a week until the next one. But I don't know. I'm not complaining.
So have you played with Opus 5 yet at all?
I have a little bit, yeah. So over the weekend, I picked an open source project and I basically ran a prompt against it. I used, I think, about 40 or 50% of my max usage, the weekly max usage doing that. I was trying to find something similar to the WordPress WP2Shell that we'll talk about later, just like a unauth RCE chain. I didn't. I found some bugs along the way, but what I'm doing now, because OpenAI did decide to reset the usage, I think it was supposed to be in another 2 days to reset it. So I'm doing the exact same prompts using 5.6 Ultra Sol. And compared to, I haven't got the results yet. It's actually still running. And I think I'm down to 10% now of my weekly allowance. So it's using more allowance, but it's been running for well over 24 hours compared to, the Opus ran for, I think, 5 or 6 hours. So I think it's going to find more. I still don't think it's going to find me W2Shell for this project, but yeah, things are definitely moving up. Yeah.
You'll have to report back to us.
I will do.
speaking of additional AI things, the new Pwn to Own was released, right? And I believe AI is now a category in the Ireland Pwn to Own. Is that right?
Yeah, there's 7 categories this year. I know there's AI infrastructure and then AI coding agents were in there. I also saw wellness, which I don't think has been a category before. So like some of those devices like monitor your heart rate and like sleeping and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting targets, I think. I also saw printers are on there. So if Stephen ever wants to take another look at the brother printer, it is on the target list. Speaking of Pwn to Own Ireland, I'm still waiting for Stephen's write-up from last year. So hopefully maybe that'll coincide with the new one, which is on the 6th to 9th of October. And the other thing we were talking about with the Pwn to Own, how was the competition going to work, right? Because the last one changed where, they had to reject a lot of entries. It was the first time they'd ever had to do that.
They've changed the entry requirements, right?
Yeah. So basically now, if you want to be eligible, you have to have scored at least $15,000 worth of bounties previously. And that can be either in Pwn to Own or with CDI generally. And I think they're going to pick, there's 80 people being accepted. They're going to pick 10, which don't have to meet those requirements. Which is good,
so
but that's
it's harder for noobs to get on, is what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. And also, I mean, if you knew that they're picking 10 out of 80 people, not even 10% of them are going to be people who haven't had a 15K bounty, would you even risk like submitting? Do you know what I mean? If I'd found like a really nice 0-click, full RCE chain, and there was only like, 10% chance or less that I was going to be one of those participants, maybe I'll just try and submit it somewhere else. I don't know.
We'll have to see how it affects. I mean, everyone's trying to deal with the fact of AI submissions and overloading of PRs and things. I mean, we see some of that too here on the Metasploit project. So we're always trying to figure that out. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
Yeah. One more thing as well. I forgot the WhatsApp bounty. I don't know if you saw. It wasn't the Berlin Pwn to Own. I think it was the one before. Like, it might have been Ireland actually last year that somebody said they had a full RCE 0-click for WhatsApp, and the bonus, they'd moved up from $500,000 to $1 million payout. And then they didn't turn up. They missed their flight or something. They said they were going to look at it later. I don't really know what happened in the end there, but I did notice that WhatsApp is now $300K for a 0-click RCE.
That's a drastic change.
It's dropped a lot. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this previously, right? Like bug bounties are going to flux with AI being participating in them, and then in both directions, right? Because we saw Google when we were talking about this before, they've increased some of their bounties, and now we've got other ones more commodity stuff that has decreased their bounties. So I mean, we'll have to see where the economics settle over the next couple years.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's deep dive some of these and let's jump over to Situation Room. All right, so here we are in the Situation Room where we talk about the latest news in cybersecurity that's happened since the last time we've recorded a podcast. And the biggest set of news that we've had was the OpenAI hacking environment, escaping the sandbox, if you will, that has been all over the media and all over the internet. So I think we are obligated to at least start by talking a little bit about the incident. And I'll just say up front here, what I really think here is interesting is a couple things. One, I think it's the fact that the model decided it was easier to cheat than take the test. I mean, tell me that does not sound like any teenager that's ever been to high school, right? Like, yeah. I'm not sure what level we consider these from a maturity standpoint when we talk about open AI models in general. But man, that just sounds like a kid that I got to deal with trying to cheat all the time. So that's hilarious to me, right? Like, we train these models to be like humans, and turns out they're exactly like humans. They want to take the easiest path first. But on a more serious note, I also think it's interesting that when we talk about what actually happened here, and I'll let Jonah, you can dive into this much more in detail here in just a moment. But ultimately, I think there's an over rotation on like how smart the AI was when we're talking about this. When in reality, what it did is it just once again exposed human error that we've had for decades. It just does it faster than humans are able to identify those same errors. So I mean, but anyway, I'll keep commenting as you walk us through this. But go ahead, Jonah.
For sure.
What are the facts here?
Well, both of the stories we're going to look at here kind of describe what you're saying there as well, with the advance of AI and its ability to find these vulnerabilities autonomously. One that we're not going to cover as well, I'll just throw this out here now because it was a potential for being covered, was Expo getting I think 3 RCEs on Google, on Bing, like an image processing. It was one that was a contender, but seeing as we're not going to go through it, let me just give it a quick shout out there. That got them in the top 10 Microsoft researcher list as well. So that's the first time an autonomous AI system has reached like the top 10 of like the Microsoft research. But anyway,
Crazy world that we live in.
Yeah. Back to the OpenAI. So this was a statement they gave out. They said, while operating in a sandbox test environment, the model spent a substantial amount of inference compute finding a way to obtain open internet access. So they were sandboxed. They weren't able to get out on the internet. And they were a little bit vague on what happened here. They mentioned that it found a 0-day vulnerability, and they've disclosed that responsibly to the vendor. So it's like a package which it's been able to find a 0-day in. And then with the package registry cache proxy, that gave the model access to the internet. It performed a series of privilege escalation lateral movements until it could get on the internet and then go and find this Hugging Face, which is hosting the model. So it's being tested, and it thought the best way to succeed in the test was to find the place where the test was hosted and exploit that. So they said that it searched for and successfully found ways to gain access to secret information that could be used to cheat. In one example, it chained together multiple attack vectors, including stolen credentials and 0-day vulnerabilities to find RCE in the Hugging Face servers. And then I guess, so it just, it found the answers, right? It didn't actually poison the database or anything. I think it just used that to actually extract the right answers for it to pass the test. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds about right with what I'm familiar with. I still think here this gets me every time, right? So if you take a step back here and you're like, all right, so I'm in charge of architecting the safety model for testing new models, and I've put in some rules in place. Like, I'm just oversimplifying this, right? So let's just say I've put in some type of rules, whether we call them firewall rules or whatever type of rules, to ensure that the environment can't get out to the internet. That was mistake number one. Like, why is there any cable connected anywhere physically that allows this to connect to the internet? Like, this is not a hard problem to solve from an isolation perspective. And if I'm testing the latest and greatest AI models to know, like, knowing that, hey, like, we've made these things pretty smart, right? Like, they're going to look for ways to solve problems, then, man, I wouldn't have even had that cable connected. Like, I just think, like, the whole concept here of this is poor isolation at the end of the day. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but that's my take on this.
Yeah, I don't know the exact technical details, obviously, but I mean, they're saying it was in, the sandbox environment didn't have access to the internet. So it's obviously that it needed access to some third-party package, and then that third-party package had access to the internet. It could be reasonable that third-party package needs access to the internet to function, but I don't know exactly what its role was in this. I guess maybe, I don't know how this whole Hugging Face evaluation works. Could they have just done this completely offline and then just taken the results and then gone and uploaded those results to, it should just be exporting a file, really. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear like a full breakdown someday from OpenAI if they have one. And I'm also interested, what do you think, Doug, in terms of the publicity of this? Do you think this does more good for OpenAI than harm, or the other way around?
The old adage, any PR is good PR. I think in this case for OpenAI, that holds absolutely true, because while, yes, the AI escaped what it was doing, and, my comment on potentially human failures to isolate it correctly, I think none of that matters, because I think at the end of the day, what this does is it proves that OpenAI's model is how strong it is and what it can accomplish. And I believe, this is just Doug's opinion, I don't have any like data to back this up or anything, but I think as we talk in the world of investors and like the quote unquote arms race in AI, the fact that there's a big PR event of your models being able to hack all this and escape and then do something, like, I just think that's probably at the end of the day going to be a positive PR spin for OpenAI versus a negative one. Maybe that's a little bit conspiracy theory, but
I think so as well. I think so as well, but it's super weird, right? You have a situation where it's like, oh, the more dangerous and uncontrollable it is, like the better it is. The more people want to invest, or the more people think, oh, this one's the one that's going to beat the others in the AI race.
Hollywood movie on this in the last 20 years? I mean, that's exactly the storyline, right? Like, I think,
for sure.
And we talk about the sexy stuff in cybersecurity. I mean, this doesn't get any crazier than this, right? Like, and that's going to grab headlines. It's going to grab interest. And I mean, we can go all the way in saying like, oh, this might be something that then the government's interested in, and this showcases what it can do and what are governments willing to pay. Like, I mean, it's just snowballs from there. So I think ultimately this turns out to be a positive PR spin at the end of the day for OpenAI versus negative. But that's just my take on it.
No, I agree. This is same topic then. This was from Hacktron AI, the autonomous AI vulnerability discovery tool. And they basically put together a post-mortem from, obviously not a post-mortem from OpenAI. They don't have all the information, but this is what they believe happened. I did see some tweets saying, they'll be interested to see how closely this matches the actual attack. But they believe this was a JFrog artifactory, that it basically, the sandbox has a reader credential. It was able to find a 0-day to bypass this to get admin control. And then with artifactory admin access, it can access this cache package, which is running on the internet. So that's it getting out of the internetless sandbox.
I'd be curious to know, again, how this was set up, because wouldn't you have, in hindsight's 2020, so I'm just completely fair on that, right? So sitting here analyzing it after the fact, I understand that I'm armchair quarterbacking, right? But wouldn't you have some type of detection that if I don't want the model to have admin control, that would trigger as soon as admin control is obtained, right? And then you'd be like, wait a minute a sec, I didn't, it's not supposed to be doing that type thing, and be able to shut it down. And I know these models move super fast, but I've also, you and I've personally worked with these models discovering vulnerabilities. When we say super fast, we're talking hours, right? Not seconds. So I feel like, maybe that's the lesson learned eventually for OpenAI is there should have been an elevation of privilege detection here somewhere.
Yeah, I wonder how close the monitoring was, though. Do you even have people just sitting watching it as it's going, or do they just go, let's kick this experiment off and come back tomorrow morning?
Yes, I don't have any data to know, but they probably didn't have people not like a SOC watching it, but maybe that is the lesson learned. Maybe they do need active monitoring, real time. But anyway, I cut you off.
So it got access to the internet. So it did submit. They believe that it submitted a malicious data set. So I wasn't too sure. Did it just hack in and read the data set? They believe it submitted a malicious data set, and the data set reaches the unsandboxed Ginger, and then they get code execution, and then they can reach the internal clusters with the solution database. So they did ultimately find the solution, but they submitted a malicious data set in order to get code execution on there to read the. So it's pretty. Sounds like a pretty complicated attack chain.
Very elaborate. No, it's definitely impressive. I think there's no doubt how impressive it is that it pulled all these things together. And I still think the initial concept of, this test looks hard, I'm going to try to cheat. That's the most impressive thing to me, is the initial thought process that this thing had.
Yeah.
There's nothing more human than that.
It would be interesting to see a breakdown of that. I know that what we were talking about there, the Expo one, where they whenever they talk about those RCEs they found in Bing, they're showing quite a lot the prompts and the thinking that it comes back with.
Yep.
It would be interesting to see them just give a breakdown of this is what it was thinking before it broke out, and then once it got online, it's because I wondered, did it have any, you have kind of multi-agents, talking about the morality of it, or safeguards. I can't use these models without if I type the word cyber, it blocks me. And
but don't they do that? But it wasn't that the whole point of this is they removed the safeguards for these testing. So I wouldn't expect there to be the safeguards in place, but I
not
agree
the
with
safeguards,
you.
but it's still normally, even without safeguards in place, if you give it instructions, the write-up we're going to talk about in a minute, there was no safeguards to stop it from access to the internet, but the prompt, specifically said you don't go onto the internet, don't look up the GitHub and stuff like that. So if that was even in the prompt to begin with, surely as the AI is reasoning about its decisions, it will keep going back and be oh wait, the prompt said this. Is this okay for me to do? I don't know. I'd be interested to see the breakdown.
Yeah, of course, but we don't know what that initial prompt was. I don't think, right?
No, we don't.
I don't know that was published. So
anyway, speaking of complex attacks, the other one which everybody's talking about at the moment is the WP2Shell. So this was released just over a week ago, right? On a Friday, dropped on a Friday.
Yes.
Give everybody time to patch.
I was painfully aware it dropped on a Friday, and I think we became aware of it in my time zone at 4 p.m. on a Friday. So that was, thanks guys. Really, really appreciate that. If you're watching, could you at least next time hold it till Monday morning? I don't understand why we had to do this late on a Friday.
I saw some of the researchers getting a bit of heat on Twitter about it, but they said it wasn't up to them. They didn't actually know it was going to happen. WordPress just decided to release the patch on Friday night. So they were kind of just suddenly okay, now let's release it. And they obviously didn't release a full technical write-up. They just kind of put out a website with a scanner and a little bit of info about it. This write-up that we're looking at now it's from Hashkitten, SL, Searchlight Cyber, who found this.
And yeah, they basically decided after the weekend there was enough POCs around. I know Hacktron had independently found the exploit after the information came out, obviously. Same with Caliph. So yeah, once there's enough POCs out, once there's enough technical write-ups, they made the decision to post the full
If I'm
analysis.
not mistaken, you were able to detect the POC pretty quickly as well on the weekend. Weren't you working on it?
I wish it would have been a little bit quicker. I mean, so this was done with the GPT-Sol Ultra. I used Opus 4.6, which I was still using right up until 5 dropped there. And yeah, I used... it pretty much took it like the full weekend. It used like 60% of my weekly allowance to get the full POC. And the POC's in multiple parts. So I saw a lot of people getting like the SQLI component of it, and then they would use that to like grab the admin password hash and then you can crack that. But that's not a universal unauthenticated RCE, you know. So I knew there was more to it, and I think that's mentioned in this write-up as well. Although this hadn't come out at that stage. So people were a little bit unsure, but I got it eventually. I didn't get it as quick as this. So, I mean, this was, you can see, this is a prompt they took. And
I really like how they published their prompt here. I think more people publishing prompts is how we're actually going to get a lot more learning in the industry about how this works.
Yes. And also what I love about it is it's just super simple. Like they didn't use, let me just scroll down to the setup. So, you know, they created this folder, they created a main folder with WordPress in it, and then they created a third-party folder that was empty. And that's it. They don't have any like harness set up. They don't have any tools connected. Yep. They just literally have that and this single prompt. And this prompt,
but I think to be fair, Jonah, though, like when you're reviewing source code like this, because this is open source, you don't need a whole lot of other things. So I don't know, like this, I don't know if I would map this one-to-one to like vulnerability research when you're looking at from a black box perspective, that it would always be this simple.
Maybe, but okay, for example, like a lot of people, even with the white box, like open source testing, you might still try and have a look at like what are all the past CVEs for this, and then like build up a threat model, and then, you know, you map out like the sources and the sinks, and like all that's part of like a framework. And if they have like, I suppose this doesn't have binaries. In some cases, you will want tools and stuff. But I mean, this one is literally just this prompt, and they didn't even like. I mean, this prompt is like 95% verbatim taken from this mathematical paper, which basically was just a prompt that they were using to prove some kind of mathematical theories, solve hard mathematical problems, and they pretty much just swapped out a few words. You know, they put in WordPress, they put in some things specifically. Like so this is the opposite of what I was just saying. They specifically said in the prompt, we don't want you to look at the Git history, don't look at change logs. They removed all of the Git stuff from, you know, that's not in the repo. And that's part of it. So they say don't use the internet for anything apart from, and that's because there are lots of third-party libraries. Obviously, you have PHP, you have MySQL, and then there are, you know, other third-party libraries.
Because it doesn't want it going down rabbit trails that have nothing to do with the vulnerability that it wants it to find, right? That's the...
And also, maybe it doesn't want to. You can get pigeonholed, right? If you look at like, oh, over the past 10 years, these are all the CVEs. You're just basically looking for the same CVEs that have been found. You're not looking for, you're not looking for this complex vulnerability chain which just doesn't fit in with any of the past vulnerabilities. So I think all that's part of it. Yeah, the prompt is really cool. I actually tried using the exact same prompt with a different project and GPT Ultra Sol, and found a couple of vulnerabilities, 2 highs, a critical and a medium, which might get escalated. So I can confirm it's definitely a good prompt. I tried this. So when I was saying that I tried 2 prompts with the Opus 5 over the weekend and also GPT 5.6, I'm using a very similar prompt to this with both models to see on the same project what they return with. So yeah, hopefully have the results from that soon. But yeah. The other cool thing about this is the cost. So they used about 50% of their weekly usage on a $200 subscription. So it totaled about $25. They said, I think it was 4 hours it took them it took Sol to get this full chain. So like we talk about, you know, the cost of vulnerability research, $25 for a vulnerability which for a 0-day broker would get you $500K at the moment. And I know like last year or the year before they were offering $1 million for the same bug.
Yeah,
so.
it's really interesting the different ways that we talk about costs, because if this was a token, like if this was APIs on token, it'd be way more than $25.
Yes. Yep.
So that's an interesting comparison, right? Versus just using a subscription.
Yep.
And we're saying because it's $200 a month, $25 a week, right? Like that's interesting.
And I was saying to you recently, Doug, about like the mentality of this subscription thing and the AI tokens. You know, if I have like $300 of AI tokens and I'm
running a prompt and I'm seeing, okay, you spent $10, $50, $100, and I don't have any bugs, I'm like, stop wasting money. But if I have a subscription, it's like, okay, you have this amount per week, you want to burn it all. So you're sitting there, you don't really think it's already spent money. Do you know what I mean? You don't think about like whether it's actually worth it. I mean, this certainly was worth it though. And I'm going to try
the big question that we won't go down this rabbit hole now, but will these companies keep these subscriptions around because they want you, or they want you to force towards the token model? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I know. I hope so. I hope they keep it around for me. I don't know. I mean, you do see like to get the same results, some of the new models, right? To get like the same results as older models are becoming cheaper, even though I know like the latest model comes out, they always make it cost more tokens because that's how they get the money, right? It's not really like, it's not that the new model costs way more to run. It's that to always use the latest model, they're always going to charge you the highest price. But about the vulnerability anyway, I'm going to try and cover this. This is super, super complicated. And even Hashkitten writing this, I know they said somewhere, it took like 4 hours or 6 hours for them to do this whole chain, but it took days to actually understand what it had done. And I think the first part isn't too bad, the SQL injection. So it's basically in this batch API in WordPress. And yeah, you can make requests to WordPress, or you can do, does it show a normal request? No, okay. So you can make requests. You can also do these batch requests where it's basically sending multiple requests inside the same HTTP request. And whenever you use that batch endpoint, it will it'll validate the pipeline differently. So this is just a normal post endpoint, not a batch request. And it's going to check the parameters. It's going to sanitize them. It's going to check the permissions, and then it's going to execute the endpoint callback. The difference with the batch is it's going to do this with a 4-step process. You have multiple loops here. So for each request in the batch, it's going to check the parameters, it's going to sanitize the parameters, and then for each request in the batch, it's going to check the validation succeeded, run a permission callback, and then execute. And this can lead to a sync issue, basically, where one of the items can come out of sync. So you have like the matches and the validations, and if one of the matches that comes through isn't valid, if it causes like some kind of exception, it will basically proceed, but it'll shift that loop over. So now the parameter, the request which is being matched there is no longer being tested against the permissions of what it should have been tested against, if that makes sense. So what that means is, so let me give, their wording is going to be a little bit better. So suppose the first request is malformed, the original request and the validations remain aligned, but every entry and matches is shifted back by one position. The second execution loop skips the error. So the first one was an error. And then at index 1, it uses the original request, but it has the validation of the next one over.
Yeah, so there's a mismatch in validation and request.
Yes. So how can they use this? Well, there's this sync. So the root the post route allows users to list posts meeting certain criteria. And there is basically, so there's an SQL injection in this author not in value in the array, which normally you wouldn't be able to do anything with this because it expects integer. I think it expects an integer array. And that would be validated, right? It's going through that batch process. So it's making sure that those validate. But if you're able to make them go out of sync, you can basically make it so that you can use like an unsanitized string in that parameter instead. So there is an SQLi in there, but it's protected by those validations. But as soon as you can make those go out of sync, you can basically just reach that without validation. So yeah, that gets SQL injection. I think it's actually slightly more complicated than that as well because
it's a really interesting find.
Yeah, it's going to get crazier. I think my explanation of this so far is semi-coherent, but as we get down a little bit, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. There was something here as well. I think it needed to be a GET request, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm thinking of something later. Yeah, okay, the batch API does not support GET requests, and the SQLi that they need is only accessible via GET. So I think they had to do a similar sort of thing with here, where they're basically so they're recursively...
they're nesting it, right?
They're nesting it, and so they do the desync again. So the method now isn't validated. So, it's saying like it's going to validate what kind of parameters can go through, and one of the parameters is the method. So by doing that desync again, they can basically slip in this GET request, which is what they need for the SQLi. And this can basically get them the the password, right? So that was the stage that a lot of people got to. They could extract the hash, they crack the hash, and then they think that's the full chain, but it isn't. It continues. So yeah, this is where it starts to get complicated. So there's a cache which WordPress maintains the in-memory cache WP posts throughout the request lifecycle. So this is only within one request that this will live. It's not persisted anywhere. Once the request ends, they're discarded. However, if the same post is referred to multiple times in the request lifecycle, it'll use that cache post. So they basically find this embed. You can use these O embeds, they're called. And all right, so wait, they can poison the cache. Not so obvious what they can do with the primitive. They can create fake posts, but yeah, what's that going to get them? So you have these embeds. There is another gadget they need, which is this change set gadget. Yes, this is where it becomes a little bit incoherent on my side. So yeah, they need to find a gadget. There is they can already deface websites at this stage. There is a special type of post called a customized change set. So whenever you draft and edit, it will save the draft changes in the settings in some way, and this is basically what it uses. If you resume editing the site, it will temporarily apply the change set. And each of these each thing you can change has a key, such as blog name and a 3-element dictionary, which are the thing you're changing, the value you want to change, and the user ID whose authority will be used to make the change. So in this case, the ID have user 1, which is the admin. So it's basically applying these changes as the admin. And it gets even more complicated here. So they want to add a new user as admin through doing this, and it needs to be done in that stage while it has the admin access. So there's some cycle here. You basically need to create I think you need to forge 7 posts, all in a very specific format, which will create this loop. And then, yeah, you need to then hook. What function do you hook? Oh, so you can hook a do action function here, I guess. Yeah, this is where it starts to get super hard. Okay. I mean, so here's the actual exploit here. There are 2 requests which basically form the whole attack. Is this the first one and this is the second one? You can see why this would take somebody a lot of time,
So the $1 million question here is would this have been found without AI assistance?
Okay, I think, well, actually, Hashkitten did answer that as well. They said, I make no general claims, but I can say with complete confidence that no security researcher could have found and completed this exploit chain in 10 hours without AI. Even if I gave them the original bug and asked them to exploit it, I'm not sure it'd be possible in that time frame.
Yeah, so I think that's totally. I would agree with that based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
Now, but there's a difference between, because he's saying in 10 hours time without AI. So I think we're not saying it's humanly impossible, because I do think a human could have strung this together, but it would not have taken 10 hours. This is.
Yes,
this
agreed.
is months of study. And what do you think, Crypto? I mean, I think it's months of study.
Totally agreed. I mean, even then, I don't know.
This is one of those, when I talk to new people in the field and doing teaching and stuff, I make the comment that when you get done with some of these vulnerability discovery projects, at least in the past. Now, this is not going to be true anymore with AI, but when I was actually doing this work on a regular basis, I used to say all the time, when you get done, you know the code better than a developer. And I think this is a perfect example of that. For an attacker to get this far without AI, you would have to be an expert in the code that's written here in a way that the developer is not going to be the expert in it, because they wrote it in a particular way with a particular mindset, right? It takes that hacker mentality of, how do I abuse things in a way that was not designed? How do I leverage this? What is the developer missing, unintentionally missing, to put this together? And that type of analysis for a human being, as far as I'm concerned, this is months worth of work. So for an AI to do it in 10 hours, these are the type of bugs that it's really interesting to see as we move into this new era of vulnerability research come up.
Yeah, I mean, it's super weird, right? As a vulnerability researcher, you could find a vulnerability like this and just never have even opened the code base, never looked at a single line of code in it. Yeah. And suddenly you have this exploit that you now need to understand.
And you made the comment earlier, and I think it's 100% true now, which is AI can help you find these vulns relatively quickly. You said 6 hours or something to that effect, right? Once we knew where it was. But then you made the comment, days to understand. And that's with the assistance of AI, because you haven't done the code review that you would do back in the day to understand this. And so now you have to dive in. And yes, it's quicker than if you actually did the research project from start to finish, but you still have to wrap your human brain about like, how is this even working, right? Which is...
And sometimes that's difficult because, the AI sometimes will find you a vulnerability and you've got to work in POC. Everything works perfectly. But when you ask for like, how does it work? They just give you like nonsense that doesn't actually make sense, give you fake code and then you're like, but it works. Now I have to go and like try, you're like arguing with the AI, like that doesn't make any sense. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. It doesn't make any sense.
That's pretty impressive work. And it's really, really interesting to see this new era of vulnerabilities come out. Well, hey, do you have any other stories that you wanted to walk us through today? Thanks for taking us through that, even with how complex that it was.
No, that's it for today.
All right, well then let's go talk about DEF CON, shall we? All right, jump over to the war room. See you in a minute. All right, welcome to the War Room. This is, of course, our guest segment of the podcast, and this is our DEF CON edition. We have a very special guest. Alex is joining us today. He is a DEF CON guru. I don't know, that might be one way to say it. He's been doing DEF CON for quite some time, right? And so we're happy to have him, to have a chance to talk to him for a little bit. Maybe we'll do some tips and tricks for those that maybe they don't go to DEF CON all the time or things like that. So anyway, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to tell those that don't know who you are, maybe a 2-minute overview of you?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I apologize. There's like a ton of junk in my office. I am halfway through moving, but it fits within the spirit of DEF CON because it's chaos all the way up until the point you leave. I've been going to DEF CON since before I was allowed to get a hotel room by myself, which in and of itself is a story. I had stayed at the Circus. I think DEF CON 16 was my first year.
So I was at 18 was my first year. So I only 2 years after you.
Yeah. So it was DEF CON 16. Riviera, I think, was full at the time. So we stayed at Circus. I got the notification. I was able to book it and then got the warning saying, oh, you're not old enough. So I was lucky enough. My parents, who have been to Vegas, they've experienced Vegas in the Bellagio side and the Caesars side. I said, don't worry, I'll book the hotel. And they got to experience Circus, which was an experience for all involved.
How old were you? So?
Oh, goodness. I would have had been 16 or 17, somewhere around there. So, went there, had an absolute fun time. And your first year is always chaos. You don't know where to go, what to do. And it takes you a few years to get your footing. So I went DEF CON there. And then, let's see. So I started, we'll say, attending DEF CON, which was you went there, you went to the talks, and then very quickly I noticed like the talks were really good. They were really fun, but it wasn't my place at DEF CON. Mine was the contests. Like I got into the contests. I found my home in Team Fortress was one of them, which was just one of my favorite contests. Scav Hunt was a great way to introduce yourself to the con, but Darknet, DC Darknet. And I had started playing Darknet. I started winning Darknet, which was really fun.
For those viewers that might not know, tell us a little bit, like, what is the Darknet contest?
Yeah, so Darknet there's a book by Daniel Suarez, and if you are in hacking culture, if you're in IT, if you're in cyber or computery things, it is a book you absolutely need to read. It's fiction. I won't ruin anything for it, but it is an absolute incredible book. But as part of this, Daniel Suarez, who's the author, introduces this concept of what the Darknet, not the Darknet as like Tor network, but the Darknet as this internal community which started forming. And inspired by this, they started creating a contest around Darknet. And what that is there's a badge like a lot of challenges at DEF CON. There's little mini CTFs in it. They wrap it into this really cool story where you would accomplish little challenges along the way, cryptography system. There's the Crucible by Zero Altitude, where it was this AWS system you'd log into and it would reboot every 10 minutes. And there was no way you could possibly accomplish all the tasks in 10 minutes. So you'd have like an hour. So you had to script all your challenges up and have them run within 10 minutes. So tons of little challenges. Anything more on Darknet that you want to hear about? Because I could talk about forever. They have incredible teams.
Oh, I don't know. I was just wanted to make sure people knew like what you were talking about. That's all.
I want to know. Did you win the Darknet competition?
So I won it. Oh gosh, this is gonna sound so weirdly arrogant. I started playing it And it was the first couple years, it wasn't a contest. It was just a, like, my goodness, an experience. And then it turned into a contest, and I won it 4 years in a row.
That's awesome.
And I was then approached by Command Code in Zero Altitude, and they said this question, like, can you stop playing? But like, hey, what's the plan here? And I won a black badge during it. That was DEF CON 22. And they kind of approached me, and I pointed out, I'm like, well, this is the best for me at this point in my life. This is the best thing at DEF CON. Like, show me another place I can have this much fun. And then he like points behind the counter, and he's like, well, you could do Darknet from this side.
Yeah.
So I ended up joining the team who ran Darknet, and I ran their boss fight. So they have their, almost everything goes up to this big event that happens on Saturday. So for goodness, 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, might have been longer, I helped run Darknet. And there's a huge team. It's a team of like 18, 20 people. So, and my part was the boss fight. So I did that. And then along the way, DEF CON 27, it was the year Joe Grand made
Badge.
The badge. And he made, it was the one where it had the cochlear implant, looked like the quartz crystal on front of them. You could put them next to each other and they'd pair.
Oh, hold on. I might have that one. Hold on.
Yeah.
Was it this one?
That was the one. Yep.
Nice.
So that was the badge, and Gulo and Gowrie, two people who were helping with Darknet too, they got this idea. And again, I don't know who came up with the idea, but somewhere along the line, one of them said, kind of looks like a urinal cake. They wanted to enter the badge forging contest. And I started capturing this on video just with my phone. I didn't really have a camera at the time. And I started recording this event of theirs of finding a urinal cake in Vegas. They couldn't find a new one, so they settled for a slightly used one. And they made a forgery, and it looked really good. But here was the thing: is these urinal cakes are not really meant to be out in the world. And what you don't realize is they smell really strong, like in so much stronger when you're shaving it down in the contest area where the whole room started smelling like it. Even worse than when one of the goons came up and realized it needed to be shiny and grabbed it and rubbed it on the carpet so it'd get that nice polish. And all of a sudden, it was me and Samosa running Darknet, and we all of a sudden just go get, like, there's this scene. Have you ever seen the movie Independence Day?
Of course.
There's this scene when, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. There's this scene when he is walking across the desert, and he's kind of somewhat calm. He's like ranting at the person, and then all of a sudden he's like, and what the hell is that smell? And he comes over and starts kicking. Samosa and me had that experience. We just start getting pissed off for no reason, and then we both notice the smell. So it's like, they paired it. Joe Grand fooled DT into pairing with it. They won. I think they won the badge forging contest. But all this was, I captured on video, and that was my first YouTube video. Darrington or DC Sleet Stack reached out and said, hey, do you want to do video at DEF CON? And that is what started me doing, joining the photo team, picking up video. They had never really done it before. Felt a little like Princess Bride, like, good night, Alex. Good work. We might cut you in the morning, but we picked it up, and it was fantastic. And now it's grown. We have more creators creating video and more content for DEF CON. And again, doing it all under the photo policy and everything like that. But and that has been my home. I have found my niche at DEF CON. It is the best niche. I don't care what anyone else says. I have the best job at DEF CON, hands down.
That's fantastic.
Before doing the video stuff, did you already had your YouTube channel, right, with the Hacker Hangouts? Were you already doing that podcast before DEF CON?
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
That all spawned from that original, the urinal cake video. I think I had started and dabbled in it, like COVID. I had dabbled in it. And then I still have plans to start it back up. It went dead. I got like a bunch of health issues and things like that, which I had to sort through, and then sort through those to then decide to move and build a house and all of this stuff. I had, right before COVID, I had this experience. What's the best way to say this? Me and my business partner started a business 3 months before COVID hit, which was we thought it was going to be terrible timing, and it worked out awesome. We've grown our business. It's done great. We got involved with MIT and Google when they did their GAIN, like their contact tracing technology. So we got to take part in GAIN's security, and we're the ones responsible ultimately to make sure that that system was privacy preserving, which was really fun. And then that has grown awesome. But that with all those things going on, YouTube has been one of those things where I want to do it. I want to have fun with it, but it's been pushed to the side for now.
Yeah, it's a hard game, YouTube, these days as well. Obviously, I used to make a lot of YouTube videos, and I find I didn't really know what it was. I thought maybe like AI, there was too much like AI created videos coming out that would just take it, just kind of flooding YouTube. But I've kind of realized it's probably just as well, a lot of the videos I make would be like walkthrough videos, and people just use AI now. Instead of watching a video on how to do something, they just ask AI how to do it. So I don't have the same motivation to make those videos anymore.
Well, it's hard too. You pour all this time into it, you edit it, you find the perfect music, and then you put it out there and you get like 4 views.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. When I think that's so much of the struggle with it is you want to put this out there and you want to refine it, but I have to laugh. Some of the best videos, which did the best for me, were the ones like I had no plan, no strategy, didn't even have a good topic.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think the content, like I swear, the more effort I put into the content, the less views it gets. Like it's like this inverse rule that happens when you're trying to create stuff. So like Jonah, I for like this podcast, we need to prepare less, not more.
Yeah.
Because the less we prepare, the better the videos come out. So
I have a story about my YouTube channel on that as well. Like whenever I first started the YouTube channel, I made a damn vulnerable web application walkthrough series. It's like 15 videos, something. And I was asked to make it for my university because it was like during COVID and people weren't going to classes. They just wanted the videos up there. So my university paid me a bit of money to make these videos, but I just recorded the whole series, like from Friday, Saturday, the whole thing was done. I didn't edit, like some of the videos I didn't even play back. I just literally I just sent them off to university. And then at some stage, because my YouTube channel was so small, I was just like, oh, you might as well just put these on YouTube as well. But I was really embarrassed about how low quality they were. So I dumped them all at like 4 a.m., all 15 videos at the same time on my YouTube channell. And now that like over the past 5 years, they've become my most watched videos. We have like hundreds of thousands of hours watch time. And I'm like, I wish I would have like watched these back and edited. There's like, it's just, I hate it. I can't, like, people comment on it and I can't even go back. And they'll ask me a question about it. I'm like, please just timestamp, because I don't want to have to search through this video.
But hey, Alex, you mentioned something there a little bit when you were going through your history about like the talks and your involvement and all the different things, which I think is very true for DEF CON. And I think it'd be interesting to unpack a little bit for some of our viewers, especially if you're new to going to DEF CON, which is, I've heard this said a lot, like, hey, the first couple of years, or maybe the first year I went to the talks, right? And they're really, really good. But then I found like something else and I don't really go to the talks anymore, right? Like I do this other thing. So like, I agree. I've spoken to DEF CON a couple times. I go to some of the talks, but like I always find my niches somewhere else if I'm going and like meet up and stuff. So like from that context, like what would your advice be to someone that's going to DEF CON for like the first time, or if they've gone to DEF CON like 5 or 6 years, like to find something different about the community to get involved in?
Oh gosh, there's so much there. I think everyone. So okay, maybe we'll start here. DEF CON 29. This was the year I was really like, we're going to do as many videos as we possibly can. As many videos as I can get out, we're going to do. And under this guise, I have my brother who is an incredible video editor. And I asked him, I go, hey, like way above my pay rate, but my brother, this is where you take advantage of family and you do it for free, very cheaply. So I asked him, I go, can you edit every video? He goes, absolutely, 3-hour time difference. We'll figure it out. And I reached out to Gowrie and I said, hey, can you like hold the camera and we're going to get this whole thing. And we did, I think it was like 50 or 60 videos that year.
That's gotta be exhausting.
It was exhausting. I think we calculated out, we walked like 98 miles together, just all over the conference. And I found a very important lesson that year, which is there's no way to see it all.
No.
You could spend decades and never see it all. We kept stumbling across like little things, like the memorial room, which was cool. You went in there. It was a big list of all the different hackers who had passed away over the years. You had to see them read some of their stories, which were all written down, like how other people knew them. Other people were signing their names and saying here was a memory of theirs. That was cool. It was going into the red team or blue team village, and you realize there is just as many talks as there are at DEF CON, round the clock. These little villages.
Bug Bounty Village really as well. Little. It's a fairly new one.
What was that?
The Bug Bounty Village, fairly new, but has had some great talks over the past couple of years.
Yeah. AI Village, Hardware Hacking Village, all of them. They all have like talks round the clock. And you could go and you'd sit there and you do nothing but that. So like my advice, and I know a lot of people say don't go see the talks because they're all recorded and all of that. But you miss the experience where if you see them, you hear them talk about it, you can go off stage and ask them questions like afterwards, not while they're talking. But there's all of those. Like go through the program, find the talks you want to. But the hardest part is just finding like, I want to say your tribe, but like finding your niche at DEF CON. And there's or niche, depending on where you are. If you're in the UK, it's fine. But it is you have to find your spot, and it might be the talks, it might be the contests, it may be the villages, it may be helping out and joining like the info booth, because there's a whole nother con to experience when you're on the goon side of things. So as a tip, like, and it sounds so goofy, it's like I would say be remarkably selfish with your time. I know it sounds so goofy, but like, be remarkably selfish with your time. If you're in a talk and you're sitting there, like you only have so many days. You like Thursday is pretty much like a nothing day. Sunday is everyone wrapping up. So everything's in 2 days. Call it 20 hours. Might be more than that, depending on how late you stay up, but call it 20 hours. So if you're going to dedicate one of your 20 hours, 5% of your con to one talk, and you find yourself 5 minutes into the talk going, not really into this, like leave.
Gotta get up and leave
and go find something else. Yeah. I would encourage everyone though, go like there's one contest you can jump in and you can do one thing. Scafund. Go. You will not experience DEF CON unless you were there for Dual D getting up on the table, like dancing to Careless Whisper. Like that is it. Like that is the pinnacle of DEF CON. And then Hacker Jeopardy. Like have to see Lintile. He is an absolutely incredible host. So the Hacker Jeopardy, I think there's 2 nights of it, Friday and Saturday. Like those you have to do. But like the thing, so we made a tips video, which I stood up in DEF CON holding a sign, which was give me your tip. People came up and it was a terrible video. It was a terrible video because it was 50 people giving the exact same tip, which was go and experience the people of DEF CON. It wasn't go see this, go see this. It was go experience the people of DEF CON. Find a contest, jump into the group and go off with them and find your group, find your tribe.
No, I think that's great. And like, I'm sure we could sit here and list like a whole bunch of our favorite things. Like, you know, like the Social Engineering Village, I think it's hilarious to watch the contest that happened in Social Engineering Village, right? Like there's the Biohacking Village. Like every village is kind of like its own conference in itself. The
IoT Village, we have Daryl, right?
Yep. Our very own Daryl puts on a big thing at the IoT Village. He'll be out there again this year. He puts together a training exercise that you can dive in and learn some things about hacking IoT. So like, yeah, that's the other thing. If you want to learn, man, like you can learn from some of the most incredible hackers on the planet at DEF CON at no charge in a lot of cases, right? Like you can just walk up and learn this stuff. So I agree with you. You can go for a decade and never see. I mean, I don't think I've seen all of it, and I've been to DEF CON a lot of times.
And the other thing I'd say too is so much of the conference is experiencing things that you never typically experience. Us as hackers recognize this is like you don't need to stay in your vertical. Like I do web hacking. It's great. You can learn more about web hacking by doing other stuff because it's going to unlock those puzzles in your brain and go, ooh, this is a direction I've never thought of.
Oh, to that point, I say I would actually encourage people to get out of your lane at DEF CON. Like whatever your niche is that you do for your professional life, like find something completely different. Like whether it's like, I don't know, maybe if you're a web guy using your example, maybe go do lock picking. Like just completely polar opposite, right? Like because I think that's going to teach you more than staying in your niche. I've always said like the best blue teamers are red teamers and the best red teamers are blue teamers, and that's because they know the other side. So I think there's a lot of that too.
What was he even saying? Like, there's so much variety. Maritime hacking, aerospace village. Like, you ever wanted to hack on or even I don't know if there's the car hacking village. It's like you ever want, like, every one of these systems are so much different between like, oh, you want to hack a boat, you want to hack a plane, you want to hack a car, like every one of those, and then you find web interfaces in those too. Gosh, there's just so much variety there, and even in this conversation, there's so much to do. all the time. There is so much to do all the time, and you got to kind of find one. And you have to go one of two sides, I think, for DEF CON. Either try and experience everything a little bit, and that's usually your first or second year, like a little bit of everything. And then usually by the third year, you're like, okay, this is the thing I'm spending all my time on. And for me, it was contest. And I think that tends to be most people. They find a contest, and that's the one, then they compete in that.
Yeah, I agree with that. From like a first couple of years, trying to get your feet wet and just kind of understand, like, and see what there is to experience. What do you think about the fact that, I don't remember how many years it's been now. Has it been since 21 or something? They moved it to Caesars Forum. What do you think about how the location changed? Do you like the new place?
It changed again, right? It was the Las Vegas Convention Center. I wasn't there last year. The year before was Las Vegas Convention Center.
It was at the Caesars Forum, and now, that's right.
Because there was the bomb scare, right? The last year of Caesars
What
Forum.
a bummer year. Like, it was like we had between sandstorms and stuff like that happened like Saturday night where everything cleared out.
Yeah.
And like, again, they did an incredible job. DEF CON, holy cow, did an incredible job handling that with all the frustration. Because this is one thing to be said is like, it's not like, oh, this thing happened. We never thought about this. It's like, everyone's experience in disaster recovery and things like this is like incident response drills. And it was like, all right, well, grab the pamphlet. And there's not a lot of opinion in there. There's not like, oh, well, we found out it's not. It's like, no, we have to follow the operating procedure. But man, what a bummer year. But yeah, so the location, we had, Riviera to the Rio to the Caesars, Paris Bally's. We're all over the map. I remember, oh goodness, where was that? There was a moment of, I think it was Las Vegas Convention. The moment was in Paris Bally's. We were going down the hallway, and it was the first time in my life where I was like, we need to get out of here. Like, we need to get out of here, because it was so packed, and you could hear the grumbling, because it was like right near the vendor area was starting to open, the first track. And DEF CON very quickly, like, moved those rooms around so it wasn't a big meat grinder in there. But it was like, oh, this is rough. Like, this is getting really close. People are getting a little frustrated. Like, again, not in a weird way. Like, look, everyone's going to riot. Just like, this feels unsafe. And the thing when we've gone to Las Vegas Convention Center, I've heard the arguments. I agree with some of the arguments, is that but you have these huge hallways. We have a food court there. I don't like casinos. They smell, the lights, it's overwhelming. I think it's pretty universal around DEF CON. Most people don't even like casinos. So Las Vegas Convention Center is like, we got to get into that area, I think, because of the whole Caesars thing and then the booting. And from what I understand about it, it wasn't even like a mean thing. It was like, here, this is the new direction we're going. They helped us get into the Las Vegas Convention Center, and you have these huge spaces, these huge hallways. You can meet up anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's so much better in the convention center. Because I always, like, to your point, when it was at Paris and when it was at the Forum and stuff, it was just way too crowded. And you didn't want to go to the talks because you didn't want to have to walk down those hallways. Like, it was discouraging to do that. So I thought the convention center is way more open up space.
Is that where it stayed? Is that where it is this year?
Yep. That's where it is this year. It is, and it's huge. It's so big. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, you can look down that hallway and it takes you 20 minutes to walk from vendor area to contest area. But in the same sense, everyone has more space. Like, if you were ever going to create a contest, the last year, 2 years ago was the time to do it. Even now, but they can pull on more contests, more content. And I think part of this is you're going to experience growing pains. You're going to experience DEF CON trying to figure out where to put the right things. You didn't even see the first year contest was all the way at one side. Now it's flipped. It's all the way at the other side. Talks are starting to get. I think this year there was a couple announcements to deal with better audio. And I don't know if these ones have come out yet. So
I missed last year, but I saw some of the video. Some of the audio wasn't great, and some of the... Well, the audio, it didn't work on the day, right? So you had some people that just did their talk, and then in the after video, it looked fine. But you had other people, I think, was it the slides? Maybe it was the slides rather than the audio. And then they just, because it wasn't working, they kind of didn't do their talk the same. So then it also ruined the recording as well. But you said there, Alex, the 20 minutes walk between, from in the Las Vegas Convention Center. I've only been to 2 DEF CONs, and the one before that, you also had it split apart, right? You had like the link and, so there was like quite a bit of walking in between like all these different buildings as well. Previously.
Oh, you never knew where anything was? It was like, it was like, the one was like, DEF CON this year is going to be at Paris Bally's and the link
and the
Flamingo and a little bit at the Rio too. And it was just like, what? So my dream has been back, like, since the Riviera, since Caesars, was one location, shove us all in there, see what happens. And the other thing about the Las Vegas Convention Center is, like, there's this easy thing to forget that you have to almost warn new people about, is you are still in Vegas. Like, you can do DEF CON things. Like, because DEF CON has rules, but there's a few rules even within contests where it's like, it's okay to bend those. There's certain ones you do not cross, but you still have to remember, like, you're in Vegas. You cannot walk a Wi-Fi pineapple de-offing everything and walk through the casino.
What are you talking about? People do it all the time.
And they get arrested.
Yeah, I know.
Like, there was the guy who got arrested who was just de-offing all the slot machines or whatever it was. It was like, what are you doing? And
I feel like there's a story like that every single year, or at least every other year. Like,
still waiting for somebody to hack the sphere.
Specifically, I feel like this is just a reoccurring thing that happens, and you see the backpacks, and you're like, oh, well, that guy's getting in trouble later.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is like, so that's what's so cool with the Las Vegas Convention Center, is like, you get to be a little goofier at here. Like, there's a little bit more understanding. Like, there was, again, there's still growing pains. They're still trying to figure out where to put the right things. But again, I go back to, like, the contests. There are some new contests. There are ones which do not have their junk together, and they're going to be like the goofiest, miserable contest. I don't mean miserable in a weird way, but just like, as a player, they might lose players. But at the same time, as where originally the Riviera could only support, like, goodness, like, 12 contests. You now have probably 100 different contests. That I'll ask you a question though.
All right.
As DEF CON has grown larger and bigger, you now have companies like Boeing or whatnot, like, supporting Aerospace Village. I don't know if that's the one, so, like, don't quote me on that. And then you have other ones like the ICS Village, or the ICS red teaming CTF or whatever. It's the one which has this massive city built.
Yeah,
and you can, like,
doesn't Dragos support that, I think, or Dragos? They support the city, I think.
I don't know, but how do you feel about, like, we'll call it the corporations, but, like, corporations giving money to support contests versus where they have to be homegrown and only individuals can do them?
Well, at the end of the day, for me personally, like, it's about the end experience to the user. So, like, or the attendee. So if the corporations bring in the ability to have a better user experience for, like, learning, because to me, DEF CON was always about learning and growing as a hacker, right? So, like, if it's homegrown, that's really cool. Like, that's the DEF CON, like, hackers teaching hackers thing, which I think there's a lot of value. But let's face it, right? There's a limited budget, a little capability, time that you can put into that. So, like, I think as long as the corporations that are sponsoring and coming in are building on the hacker experience and the educational component of it, then I think it's fine. It's the, like, it shouldn't be like the Black Hat Expo Center, right? Like, it shouldn't be like the RSA floor. Like, it shouldn't be a bunch of salespeople pushing products. Like, that I would be against. But if you're talking about just sponsorship and saying, Boeing's name gets to be up in there, and because of it, they've got some cool airplane components that they wouldn't have otherwise, like, I'm all for that. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think, you prefer these things to be homegrown, but at the same time, if a company is just providing funding and it's still basically homegrown, if they're not really controlling what is being done, you have people just doing it out of passion, right? So if they can also, like, get some funding on the side, and, like, probably a lot of people put their own money into doing things like that. So yeah, but I wouldn't like it if it's just more like, oh, we're hiring you to do our, like, plan for DEF CON.
Yeah, if CrowdStrike shows up at DEF CON and you have to use Falcon to hack something, then I might have a problem with it, right? Like, or like to defend something and not hack something, but you get my drift. Like, that would be probably going too far, but, like,
they can hack themselves enough without the rest of us.
They don't need help, is what you're saying.
So, yeah, I think, like, especially when it comes to, like, Aerospace Village, the other thing you find out is that you have a pretty weird investment going on. You have half the people work at a single company, and then the company's like, ooh, how can we help you guys out? We like what you're doing. It's a natural fit, especially when you're, huge companies, but if you're even a mid-sized company and you're sending 10 people there, like, it's a pretty big investment at this point. Yeah. Like, DEF CON is no longer, I want to say, a cheap trip.
No,
it's still an incredibly inexpensive conference compared to, like, Black Hat, where it's like, $3,000 or something like that, where now costs go up and things like that. But it's still one of those ones where you're sending employees. There's quite a bit of capital that goes
Well,
into
it doesn't even, like, the conference ticket is only one small portion of it. Like, the travel cost to get to Vegas and to stay there, regardless of the conference cost, is added up more and more. So as you said, like, it's definitely an investment to send people to DEF CON.
So, okay, where do you want to go next?
I've got a question then. So we've talked about like first time at DEF CON. What about just first time in Vegas? A lot of people who go to DEF CON, it's their first time in the States, first time in Vegas. Have you got any tips for, I don't know, I mean, obviously it's very hot, very dry, but it's also super big, right? A lot of people don't really expect, you know, it looks like you can just walk from one hotel to another. And
oh yeah, so I'll give you I give you two pieces. I think is there stuff to do outside the conference? And then what's the stuff like here? Is there anything you need to bring for the conference? So like the stuff, when I think about the things I've done outside of the conference, and it's really like rare I actually want to ever leave. We'll call it DEF CON. Usually it's a group of huge group of DEF CON-ers, we'll say, that go somewhere. And that's like Omega Mart was really fun. Like they have that new like Area 51 thing that was really fun to go to. At the conference, I have some like just goofy ones where it's like it is super dry. Like bring the two things I'll like are weird ones to bring. One's an obvious one is a water bottle. DEF CON does you don't have to buy water there. There is tons of water everywhere. They have filling stations, and then LVCC has things. Grab a water bottle, fill it up consistently. Another one is it depending on what time of the day you go to LVCC or really any conference center, it 35,000 people in one room. It's going to heat up. And then all of those people leave, but they are still cranking the AC. So like a light sweatshirt, funny enough, in Vegas is a worthwhile thing to have,
agree
especially
with that.
if you're in the room. Other ones are like things like, again, like such a weird one. If you're walking a ton, so like blister packs for your feet, or there's other stuff if you're having like chafage and things like that because you're walking around. Like there's some very practical things you need to think about there while you're in Vegas walking around. A good pair of shoes are huge. Insoles if you're walking a ton.
So CryptoCon and I just had a discussion about this. My advice was like yours: bring sneakers, good pair of shoes. This guy says he does it all in flip flops. I couldn't do that.
Shorts, yeah. That's it. As soon as
I do like barefoot shoes or like those really thin shoes, but that's also like I don't know. That's why I find comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. That's amazing. I definitely couldn't do that. I need good quality.
Maybe it's just
sneakers.
because I never have a chance to wear flip flops. So as soon as I go somewhere hot, I'm just like, yeah, okay. I'm not taking these off till I get on a plane.
Yeah, it's like for me, flying Dramamine for me, but it's a lot of like really practical things on that side. Like if you get like, for me, I have pretty bad allergies and with like dust allergy. So like you can put like bacitracin, which is like if it looks like a jelly stuff you can rub in the inside of your nose. This is information no one cares about. But if you get a really dry nose, you can put that's not medical advice. I had nasal surgery, so it's like one of those things like I've had a doctor tell me it. But like it's stuff like that where you put it up your nose and then like you don't get this nosebleed where your whole system's drying
chapsticks for the lips. That's something I'm using all day, every day in Vegas.
Especially in your pen, if you go outside to buy it, it's like $12 for a thing of chapstick.
Go to conference, you'll find it. That's like the number one swag item, right? For Vegas, little branded chapsticks. I've got so many of them.
So it's a lot of practical things. You're going somewhere really hot. I think remembering to eat. I know DEF CON jokes with the 3-2-1 rule: 3 hours of sleep, 2 meals, 1 shower. Embrace that shower, please. I beg of you. But like remembering to eat. If you're doing a contest, you can go grab. There's a lot of little. They've even done more of that this year. I think the maps have been released at this point, but there's just a lot more food this year too of quick grab and go stuff. It's not just going to be the cafeteria. But yeah, a lot of practical things. But a big one is good. Yeah, good pair of shoes would be a good one, and blister packs, or even if you don't get blisters normally, those things work great.
You mentioned the Omega Mall as well. I did go to that, the Area 15 thing. That was pretty cool. Another thing I'll just throw out there, the Sphere. If there's ever like a music band that you like that's playing in the Sphere, it's super expensive, but like an incredible experience. I went to see the Dead and Co, so like the Grateful Dead in the Sphere. 2 years ago. And incredible, yeah. I know Metallica are coming up. I don't think they're on at the same time as DEF CON, but yeah, well worth going to see any band in there.
And sometimes there's vendors too. Like again, this is such a dirty piece of advice, but it is true. So I worked at General Electric. Like this is like, goodness, 15 years ago. And like you have a big brand name there. GE is a big brand name. So because of that, you had vendors wanting to court you around. So, and again, this isn't everyone, but there's a couple companies who are renting out the Sphere and doing like I think they're doing Wizard of Oz right now, where it's like the 4D effect thing, but they're inviting people on over to that. Like Black Hat does it too. So some of it is, if you do, it's such a hacker mindset thing, but like, if you have a big name behind you, leverage that with those vendors. See if you can get free events that you wouldn't want to pay for normally.
Well, that kind of spins into the whole party scene. Like Black Hat and DEF CON parties are a big thing the week of Vegas. Any recommendations on great parties you've checked out before, or any stories from the DEF CON parties?
So so I have a couple stories on that one, but like for me, I'm not a big partier. I don't really drink alcohol, and it's not like, by the way, it's not something weird. I just don't like the taste. I don't like the taste. Also another story there. I'll go off on that one. So I don't really like the taste of it. All my friends kind of know that, but because of that, you get people going up and like, here, try this. And I got Skyria's like habanero vodka, which is like, liquid fire, but that was fun. This would have been, oh goodness, like 10 more, maybe 10 years ago. Went up to Hardware Hacking Village. I think it was Rare was there. There's a couple other people there. So again, but there was a bunch from the Chicago hacking group, Malortware there. And if you've never experienced Malort, it is a magical drink. And it is just like, if one of you look up the Wikipedia of it, because it is absolutely hilarious. It's a drink out of Chicago, but I think they describe it as like turpentine and like, turpentine, leather, and sadness. I think that's what it was.
But made how they flavored with wormwood. So it's like an absinthe, is it?
Yeah, but there's something in there where it's like, it's just sadness in a cup or something like that.
You looking it up, CryptoCat?
Yeah, I have do you want me to share it?
Why not?
No, it's all right. It was, I met a group in Malortware, and they were handing out little tastes of it. So Bunny grabs one and hands it to me, and I try it, and I go, that's not bad. Actually, it's really good. And all of them look at me, and they're like, what are you? And that introduced me to Malortware, which we ended up, I think I was the only person outside of Chicago on the entire team. And we ended up winning the NCES hacking CTF contest in Canada. You get these little moments at DEF CON where you, like, again, through alcohol unites us around Malort. But it was like an event like that. But going back to parties, though, like, I think another story is, so Darknet, it was like the third year. No, it's been like the fifth year. And this is like the power of the community. And again, it sounds goofy, like the power of the community. But like, a bunch of the players love Darknet so much. They all got together, and one of them must have had a really nice business because he rented out, there's a bar called The Nerd, and he rented out the entire bar and then invited anyone from DC Darknet on over. So they just like, and it was like, again, there's like Back to the Future stuff all over the walls. So those little, and here's the thing, it wasn't a DEF CON party. It wasn't even like, let's have a rager or something. It was like a bunch of cool people hanging out in a bar, like talking about challenges at Darknet. They had done little challenges around the bar. So that was a really fun one. Ones that people have to hit, there is, oh goodness, I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's like the video game party or the arcade party. That's what it is. It's a DEF CON official one, and that is a great one. You can walk around. So what I do is on Friday and Saturday night, I just walk around LVCC taking pictures. Again, I can do this. I'm a photo goon. I know how to do it. Not everyone should do this. There's a photo policy. Go review it. But that is my highlight. Friday night, Saturday night is just going in and out of the parties. There's like the pirate party, GothCon that goes on. The Illuminati party, I think, is happening again. And just go in and out of these things, just experiencing a little bit of them. And again, you find the one you like and you stay there. Like, but the arcade party is a cool one. They have foosball tables, and not like, oh, it's like 4 people. I think it's like a 12-person or a 16-person foosball table that people play on, little arcade machines. So those were ones really fun. I think the coolest party I've ever gone to was, I think it was DEF CON 20. Was it DEF CON 20? I think it was DEF CON 20. It was or 30. But they had what was it called? It was there was a really famous DJ. It was like not Lucy and the Wolf, or I don't know. I remember it was like one of these big DJ. It wasn't Dead Mouse, but it's like, one of the big heads on, LEDs and lasers going all over the place. They're yelling in the mic, DEF CON, without you, I am nothing. And, and then the bass drops and everything. Some of those are some of the coolest things to experience. But good pair of earplugs. Absolutely. That's one thing everyone should bring. It is loud at DEF CON sometimes. Good pair of earplugs or AirPods that just do the noise canceling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, it's been awesome talking about DEF CON. You have such deep knowledge because you've been there for so many years. So I appreciate you.
I'm going to ask one more question, Alex. Not related to DEF CON. Not related to DEF CON. I think I remember you had a story about offensivesecurity.com.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I owned offensivesecurity.com. I owned. So I had bought it, and then here's the thing I don't know about timing wise. The original domain was for like all the certificates, OSCP, OSCE, is offensive-security.com, and I owned offensivesecurity.com. So there's two stories coming out of this. One is I got Mutz's Black Hat badge that year, and that was kind of fun, where they emailed it to me, and I just so happened to be there early, and I was curious what Black Hat was like, and it would cause a bunch of fun complications. But either way, the other one is I didn't really have anything to use the domain for. I had started a personal blog and things like that, and kind of like like everyone does. You start a project, then you drop it and don't do anything with it. But I reached out to Offensive-Security and Mutz, who was running at the time. I think he since sold it. I was like, "Hey, do you want to buy this domain?" And originally, you're like, for $20,000, like you have no idea how much it's worth. And he's like, "I don't." He's kind of laughing. I don't have that. And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He's like, "I don't really like. I'd love to have it because I know a lot of my traffic is going to you." You go, "How about this? I have DEF CON coming up, and I don't." And this was that first year, Circus. I don't have the money for that. Would you be willing to pay my way to DEF CON, and maybe you could give me like your certification programs for free? And at that point, that was the agreement. As I got my trip to DEF CON paid for by him, and then I still had to do the. It wasn't like here's the cert, but it was like the OSCP, OSCP and OS. WP, because the OSCE wasn't there at the time, but it was like, in two certs. So I bought offensivesecurity.com, and then ended up a couple years later sold it to him for my trip to DEF CON and my certs.
Cool. That sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Fantastic deal. All right, Jonah, any other question?
No. That's it. Alex, you want to let people know where you've got multiple YouTube channels, right? Hacker Hangouts, one of your own?
Yeah, so we do a podcast sporadically. We're maybe starting it back up. Hacker Hangouts. I have my channel, which is Alex Cheveret. My handle is Silk. Please come on up to me at DEF CON. If you see me, I will be walking around with a video camera and camera. I don't even care if I'm videoing at the time. Jump in front of the camera and we can have a conversation on how your DEF CON is going and things you were having fun with. But overall, I love DEF CON. I love everything about DEF CON. My year revolves around it. It doesn't. I don't have a New Year's. I have DEF CON. And my countdown is to DEF CON every year, and it is not that far off, and I am pumped.
That's awesome, dude. Well, hey, thanks again for so much for joining the podcast with us and talking all things DEF CON. Have a fantastic year in Vegas this year, and if you're watching and you get a chance, go ahead, find Alex and give him a high five and talk to him on camera about your experience at DEF CON.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. All right, welcome to the Mitigation Minute. This is where we try to talk about solutions for the problems that we talked about the rest of the episode. And I must start by saying this is a little bit of an interesting episode when it comes to the Mitigation Minute, because outside of maybe WP2Shell, most of what we talked about isn't something that organizations are going to necessarily implement solutions for or affect them in different ways. So, Jonah, we started by talking in depth a little bit about the OpenAI sandbox attack, how it escaped. That's not necessarily something. If we're narrow about it, that's not something that organizations are going to be protecting against. But
not yet.
I think there are some lessons learned there. Go ahead.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, not everybody's testing new models on a regular basis, but I do think, some basic lessons learned from my perspective is for one, AI is going to accelerate the exposure of where human flaws are within systems, right? And it just does the same thing that humans do, but faster, which means that, we need to treat, and this is not just test environments, right? But we need to treat when we're running agents as if it is another legitimate user that has the same potential threats that a human being would have. And I mean that from an insider threat perspective. And I also mean that from an attacker's like a hacker perspective. And we need to make sure that we are properly testing our isolation, properly patching our systems that AI is using as it's trying to find 0 days to escape. But I also think another interesting lesson learned there is just the methodology that the agent took, which was this whole cheating thing that I was joking about. But what I think that goes to is the information provided back by an agent may not necessarily genuinely reflect research that you expected it to be doing, right? Like it maybe it's just regurgitating, or we talk about hallucinations all the time in the AI world. So again, I think some of the big takeaways here for leaders and for practitioners is more along the lines of treating these agents as if they were humans, both from an insider threat perspective and externally, and making sure we apply the age-old. I know this is boring. We've been talking about it for 20 years. Least privilege, those type of things to ensure the appropriate guardrails. Anything to add there, Jonah?
No, I think that's good. I mean, on the WP2Shell stuff as well, I don't really know. It's not really too much you could do to stop that to begin with, but it did drop on a Friday night, and we didn't really see. I mean, some POC stuff coming out over the weekend, but not too much. And I didn't see anything about exploitation in the wild until Monday. So you had a full weekend there to patch, and
that's what every business wants to hear. You had a full weekend to patch. That's what everyone's looking to do on the weekend, Jonah.
Yeah, I know, true. Well, okay,
but maybe that's one of the primary lessons learned, right? If we can take that out of the joke and run with it for a second. The idea of 24/7 monitoring in some way, shape, or form is still really important. Like these, I had another coworker that I used to work with, used to talk about the hacker threat at 3 a.m. Like, are you protected at 3 a.m.? That's when attackers are going to hit you. And, that's what they saw all the time. In fact, we had Corey Clark on, an episode ago? Mm-hmm. And Corey, as someone that's in the thick of this every single week, he talks about on a regular basis, that's when the attacker activity is the highest, so if you have 9 to 5 coverage in your environment, then guess what? You're not covered when threat actors are doing the majority of what they're doing. So I think the takeaway from both, ironically, it being released late in the day on a Friday, and the type of activity that we're seeing is your protection against these things are your ability to monitor 24/7 the environment.
Yeah, with the WP2Shell, there was a mitigation as well. Obviously, it depended on this batch processing, so you could disable the batch processing. I guess probably not many sites would have already had that disabled, and if you're going to go in and disable that, probably take you longer to do that than to just update the WordPress instance anyway.
Well, I think it's good to mention because it's not always easy, and we forget about this, right? Like many environments can patch, sure, but there are plenty of environments that cannot patch very easily. So knowing that there's another workaround, I do think is an important thing to note for certain organizations for sure. Last but not least, let's talk about, we had Alex on, amazing talking to Alex, and definitely, DEF CON expert, DEF CON guru. So just for fun in there, let's throw in some mitigations of going to visit the DEF CON, right? He mentioned the 3-2-1 rule, 3 hours of sleep, 2 meals, and 1 shower. Definitely something to follow if you're going to DEF CON. We talked about things like, hey, make sure you got some good shoes, unless you're Jonah and you're cool with walking 100,000 miles on flip-flops. But
shorts and flip-flops.
Shorts and flip-flops.
That's my DEF CON tip.
Say again, Jonah?
That's my DEF CON tip. Shorts and flip-flops.
Shorts and flip-flops. I'll say, everybody's different from the shorts component of it as well. But remember, Alex also mentioned it can be cool inside those convention centers. I always try to bring a lightweight pullover for that reason. I always find it amazing. Long time ago at this point, 10, 12 years ago, I took my first Black Hat training at Black Hat. And I went to Vegas thinking it's 100 degrees all the time. Why do I need to bring a sweatshirt? And I ended up buying a Black Hat sweatshirt, which is ungodly expensive because I was so cold in the convention center. So don't forget that a lot of Vegas is inside and the temperature can be different. Any last words of wisdom?
Nope.
That's everything.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for watching this episode. Please like and subscribe. We want to hear more from our viewers on what you would be interested in and hearing about, anything that we can do better or different. Would love to take your feedback. And thanks for a fantastic episode, and see you next time.